Hey everyone, welcome back to another deck idea brought to you by Double Sleeved. As always, we have the deck profile up on the screen, so if you're not wanting to hang around for the entire video, the option's there to have a look at the list. If you do hang around, we obviously appreciate it. Be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. But starting off, we're going to jump into the Trunks Xeno. Starting off with the leader, we've got to activate main once per turn. Choose one black card in your hand and send it to the warp, and you get to draw 2 cards. So we're able to do this on turn 1, which is great, being able to get that draw and start filling our warp. We have Awaken. When your life is at 4 or less, or there are 5 or more Saiyan cards in your warp, you may draw 1 card, switch one of your energy to active mode and flip this card over. And then on the Awaken side, we have Blocker. Not a keyword skill that we've seen on a lot of leaders. I think only the Xeno Xin Shen one previously has had Blocker, but this one has as well. Auto. When this card attacks, draw 2 cards, then choose 1 card in your hand and send it to the warp. Auto once per turn. When your opponent attacks a unison card, switch this card to active mode. So we're able to utilize that blocker, prevent our opponent from continuously swinging into our unison, removing it. Then we have activate main once per turn, Spirit Boost 1 and 1 energy. Place 2 black battle cards from your warp in their owner's drop area. Choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards and send it to the owner's warp. So really strong removal on this leader. Being able to pay 1 and use that Spirit Boost just to warp a battle card off the field is really good. And yeah, being able to defend the unison as it comes up. Moving on to the battle cards and extra cards we have for the deck. We've got Sun Goten, Challenging a Demon God. 2 cost 10k. Auto, when this card is played, send up to 3 cards from the top of your deck to your warp. And we're playing that by using the activate main mostly for 1 black energy. If your leader is a black Trunks Xeno card, play this card from your warp. We also have an activate battle once per turn, Spirit Boost 1. This card gains critical for the turn. So this is going to be one of the cards that we're going to want to warp early on in the game to be able to play it from the warp and then send the top 3 cards from our deck to the warp. Start fueling our warp with Saiyans and being able to awaken early. But we do have a lot of cards that synergize really well with the warp area. As well as that, we have Sun Gohan, Challenging a Demon God. This one's blocker. Similar effect when it gets played. We're sending the top 3 cards of the deck to the warp. We're also able to play this card for 1 energy from the warp. Then we have Pan, Challenging a Demon God. This is our floodgate for the deck. So we've got Counterattack, play this card. During your opponent's turn, reduce the energy cost of this card in your hand by 1. So it becomes a 1 cost. And then if your leader is a black Trunks Xeno only card, and you choose 1 card in your hand and send it to your warp, when this card is played, your opponent can't attack with battle cards for the turn unless they choose 2 cards in their hand and discard them each time. So if they make the mistake of swinging unison or leader first, we're able to counterattack with this. It doesn't negate the attack. We're only using the counterattack to play the card, and then the auto will trigger. So keep that in mind. But yeah, moving on, SS3 Trunks, Challenging a Demon God. So we've got unique permanent. If there are 10 or more black cards in your warp, this card gains double strike. We have an activate main, limit 1, Spirit Boost 1 for 1 black energy. If your leader is a black Trunks Xeno only card and you have 3 or more energy, play this card from your warp. So we're starting to see some of that warp utilization. Yeah, so being able to play this one does have a limit of 3 or more energy compared to the other ones, which didn't have any energy restriction. But also being able to get that 20k double strike is quite strong. But even without the double strike, it's still a 20k attacker for 1 energy, which is really good. Then we have our 1-drop Searcher, pretty generic. Trunks, Duty of Time Patrol. When this card is played, look at up to 5 cards from the top of your deck. Add up to 1 black Saiyan card with an energy cost of 4 or less, or 1 black Unison card with a specified cost of 2 among them to your hand, and then shuffle your deck. So we do have a couple of different Saiyans that can be grabbed, and also the Unison as well, which we'll go over in a couple of cards. A little bit late, but better late than never. We've got the free blocker negate that all the other colors saw come out of Battle Evolution. So at this time we're seeing black finally get one of these, which it's been lacking for a little while now. Support of the Dark Empire, 2 cost negate. If your leader's mono black, negate the attack, then play 1 Demon Realm Soldier token and it gains blocker for the turn. So these ones have 5,000 power and 5,000 combo power. And as always, the permanent, if your life's at 5 or less, you can activate this counter skill for free by taking a card from life to hand instead of paying the energy cost. Then we have the Unison for the deck, Supreme Kai of Time opposing the Empire. This is a 2 specified black Unison. 15k, auto once per turn. If your leader card is a black Trunks Xeno card and it's your turn, when a battle card is played from your warp, draw 1 card and add a marker to this card. And then we have a +1 activate main. If your leader is a black Saiyan card, send up to 3 cards from the top of your deck to your warp. So again, you know, some of the cards that we went over before, being able to play them from the warp allows us to draw a card and gain a marker, which is really good. Some of them do have spirit boost effects. Our leader has a spirit boost effect, so we do want to accumulate markers on this. But we've also got the +1 if we need a couple more cards in the warp. So we're able to send another 3 from the top of the deck to the warp. A secret rare for the deck, we've got Supreme Kai of Tai Brainwashed, one of the new secret rares coming out of Realm of the Gods. We've got Ultimate, Double Strike, and Servant. So this one is a 40k, as always, 8 cost. And we have the Activate Battle for 1 black energy. If you have 3 or more energy, play this card from your hand. And then an Activate Main / Battle for 1 generic energy. If your leader card is black and you remove this card from the game, until the start of your next turn, your opponent can't attack with battle cards or unison cards unless they choose 1 card in their life and place it in their drop area each time. A really strong effect for black leaders. Black's kind of gotten a lot of good generic secret rares over the last few sets. So another one right here. I think that it's a really strong secret rare. We've seen Pan being utilized quite a lot lately. Just by being able to shut down battle card attacks with Pan. So this is another secret rare that can stop your opponent's turn. They're not going to want to continue attacking if they need to put a life into the drop area each time. But yeah, really good. A lot of speculation about this potentially getting the God rare over the Vegeta coming out. So that'll be exciting to see. Then we have SSG Trunks Power Awakened, an SR coming out of Realm of the Gods. This one is a 5 cost, 4 specified black, deflect, dual attack. Permanent, if this card is removed from your battle area, remove it from the game instead. We've seen that permanent tagged onto a lot of secret rares recently. So this one has it as well. Auto, when this card attacks, place up to 3 black battle cards from your warp into the owner's drop area. Worth noting that this doesn't have a once per turn tag on it. Since this card is dual attack, we're able to swing twice and put up to 6 black battle cards from the warp into the drop area. And then we have the activate main for 2 black energy. If your leader card is black and there are 8 or more cards in your warp, play this card from your warp. So again, we're seeing some utilization from having cards in the warp, including this one. So if we have the unison out, we're able to draw a card and add a marker to it and things like that. And then we can start filling our drop area for things like Overrun. Supreme Kai of Time, Time Labyrinth Unleashed, a really strong negate that we saw come out of Supreme Rivalry. This is obviously a counterattack, negate the attack and play this card. It is a 3 cost. We have a permanent. If you or your opponent have 3 or more cards in the warp, reduce the energy cost of this card in your hand by 2. So a lot of the times this card is going to be a 1 cost because we're sending so many cards to the warp. And then we've got auto, if your leader is black, when this card is played using its counterattack skill, choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards and send it to the owner's warp. At the end of the turn, play any cards sent to the warp by this skill to their owner's battle area with their skills negated for the turn. Really strong at shutting down dual attackers, triple attackers, things like that. Or if you just want to remove a big threat, this is a really good option at removing big battle cards. Super combo for the deck, we've got SS Vegeta the Prince Strikes Back. Pretty standard that we saw out of the set 11, the Million Bloodlines, being able to bottom deck a card to draw 2. Really good, but it also has some synergy with some of the Union cards that we have in this deck, which we will get into. SS4 Son Goku Beyond All Limits, a TP that we've seen reprinted in Mythic Booster, so a lot more accessible now. Overrealm 6, if your leader card is black, when this card is played using Overrealm, add up to 1 black battle card with an energy cost between 3 and 7 from your warp to your hand. So really good at picking up some of the battle cards that we need if they do happen to get warped by some of our other cards' effects. We can pick them back up again. A Vegeta the True Fighting Spirit. This is a 1-cost deflect. Add 1 card from your life to your hand. When this card attacks, it gets plus 10,000 power for the turn. And we have once per turn, if your leader card is a black Saiyan card, when your opponent switches their energy to active mode with a non-awakened skill, they choose 1 card in their hand and send it to their warp. Really strong against blue. Can kind of shut down decks that utilize Bean and things like that. Kind of put them into awkward situations. Then we have Son Goku True Fighting Spirit. Similar effects to the Vegeta. Deflect, add 1 card from your life to your hand. When this card attacks, gets plus 10,000 power for the turn. And then we have a bit of a different auto here. So if your lead card is a Black Saiyan card, when your opponent activates a counter skill, they choose 1 card in their hand and send it to the warp. A lot of talk about whether this card will get touched in the upcoming ban list. It's not, the ban list is not out yet, so I do have it in here for the time being. We do have other Goku Xeno cards that can replace this if this one does get touched. But yeah, a really strong effect there. You know, forcing your opponent to warp a card whenever they activate a counter skill. Really good. Trunks Time Regulator. This is Overwhelm for the deck. So we've got Overwhelm 3. And then when you play this card using Overwhelm, you get to draw 2 cards, then choose 1 card in our hand and send it to the warp. So if we have a card in hand that we need to get into the warp for its effects, then we do have that option to draw 2 cards and then get that card into there. Another Overwhelm, we have SS Bardock the Tenacious. This is a 6-cost Overwhelm 6 for 1 black energy. When this card is played using Overwhelm, your opponent can only attack with battle cards once during their next turn. And when this card is played, you can't play copies of this card during your next turn. Only playing it as a one-off, so we don't need to worry too much about that. But it is a good option to shut down our opponent's turns if they have a lot of battle cards they want to be swinging with. SS4 Gogeta, thwarting the Dark Empire. A really strong card that we have seen being utilized in a lot of black decks recently. Triple attack blocker. Permanent. While this card is in rest mode, it can't be KO'd by your opponent's skills. Auto once per turn. When this card attacks, your opponent chooses 2 cards in their hand and 2 of their battle cards, ignoring barrier, and sends them to the owner's warp. And then at the end of the turn, you get to switch this card to active mode. Can be really punishing if your opponent has a small hand or if they're relying on some of the battle cards on their field. You can, pretty much warp 2 cards out of their hand and still have another 2 attacks at 35k. Really strong. We're playing this for 4 energy and activate main. Choose 1 Son Goku Xeno and 1 Vegeta Xeno card in your battle area and or drop area. Send them to the owner's warp. Play this card from your hand. We do have obviously the Trunks SR that can send cards from warp to drop area to kind of bring this to utilize this card. But if we're just comboing them away and things like that, we can get them into the drop area as well. Doesn't matter if they're the same power or not, because this is not a Union Fusion, it's just an activate main. So as long as it's a Son Goku Xeno and a Vegeta Xeno, we can play this card. Kotakai, Mechanical Courage. Again, we may see this card get touched in the upcoming ban list, but we have activate main for 1 energy. Remove this card from in your drop area from the game. Then choose up to 2 cards in your hand and place them at the bottom of the deck in any order. You get to draw cards equal to the number of cards you place at the bottom of the deck with this skill. And then for the turn, if your opponent plays a battle card with 20,000 power or less, they choose 2 cards from their hand and send them to the warp. Again, really strong card. Limits the kind of counter plays and counter attacks that our opponents can play without getting punished. But yeah, really strong card. Pardon me. SS3 Gogeta thwarting the Dark Empire, another promo that we've seen being utilized in all black decks pretty much. A lot more accessible now with the reprints as well. Unique Double Strike, Overwhelm 6 for 1 black energy, or Union Fusion for 1 black energy, Son Goku Xeno and Vegeta Xeno. We do have a couple of different cards that we can kind of utilize for this with the True Fighting Spirits and the super combos. And 25k double strike. When this card attacks, choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards and send it to the owner's warp. Really strong. We're able to utilize the Union Fusion with cards in the warp as well, so they don't need to be from hand. And if we're sending so many cards to the warp with this deck, we can get this out really easily. And then we have the last card, SS Vegex Mastery Merged. Not a card that we've seen a whole lot of play. It did run around in a couple of the Vegex lists back in set 10 and 11. 24k Barrier Union Patara for 3 energy with Trunks Xeno and Vegeta Xeno. We've got a permanent. You can choose battle cards in your warp when choosing cards to use with this card's union skill from your hand. And then we have a permanent. When this card is in rest mode, your opponent's cards with 15,000 power or more can only attack copies of this card. I think that it's really strong now with the free token negate that we've gotten out. It can be quite difficult for your opponent to remove this card. Being a 24k, your opponent swinging with lead, they need a super combo or drop 2 cards just to kind of put some kind of pressure onto this card, which is really strong. We've got a deck that can get a decent hand size up. We've got decent negates that we can kind of stop our opponent's turns with. So the longer that this card's able to stick on the field, the more difficult it's going to be for our opponent. But this is the defensive player in me coming out, really wanting to kind of utilize this card. We've got so many good offensive cards in this deck. By sticking this, defensive powerhouse of a card on the field and then limit our opponent's turn, I think, it's a good addition to the deck. But try it out. Let us know what you think. Be sure to leave a like, leave a comment on your thoughts on the deck if there's any cards that you think might be better suited. And we always appreciate anyone that does subscribe to the channel. But we'll see you for the next deck idea. Thanks for that.